there were two sides of this wonderful block with 4,000 people living between 1st and 2nd Avenue. It was known as the worst block in the city.
When Norm Eddy moved to East 100th Street in 1949, it wasn't the kind of place most people would choose to live.
You know what it is to sleep with coats, holes in the walls, and no heat, no hot water. You saw the wires hanging from the ceiling. You saw the airmail garbage, we used to call it, in the backyard. There were big rats like that. You saw the little kids that had been bitten. And at night, you could hear them, the rats in the wall, running up and down, scurrying and all that. It was awful.
Things were crumbling, things were dirty, there were garbage cans outside on the street.
There was indeed teen gang warfare. There was indeed the selling of heroin. There was indeed prostitution.
It was a kind of daily event to have the fire department here.
Norm lived there when I first met him on 100th Street with his wife, Peg Eddy, and his 3 children. You know, they have a place on Martha's Vineyard. They don't have to live on 100th Street.
But Norm Eddy promised to stay, and more than 60 years later, this is still his home.
I remember when I was 7, 8 years old, when he first came into the neighborhood, working out of that little storefront at 322 East 100th Street. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
We picked up that this man was special. He had a gift of reaching out to people, of showing that he was for real.
East Harlem is like another world now, as safe as any other neighborhood in New York City, full of nice places to live and play. His neighbors say Norm deserves a lot of the credit for that.
Norman Eddy has impacted practically every area of East Harlem: housing, drugs, education. This man, Norman Eddy, opened up this world to me.
He's behind everything. And to this day, people come to him, you know.
He awakened us. We were asleep, and through him, we were able to see the future.
Norm Eddy isn't interested in advertising his accomplishments, nor taking credit for his commitment. But he does want people to know how he and Peg, plus a few of the neighbors, managed to keep the faith, stand their ground, and make this small piece of the world a better place.
Peg and I had lived there for 2 or 3 years, and we found that a lot of our friends and neighbors couldn't get loans. It was impossible for them as low-income people with no particular background to find a bank that would lend them anything if they had a crisis in their lives and they needed money, or if they simply wanted to get better clothing for their daughter who was going to graduate. They went to loan sharks.
They would beat them up, beat the people that owed the money. They would beat them, and they said, "Now we give you this beating. If you don't come back with this money in such and such time, they give you 2-3 days, whatever it is, then we'll break your legs."
Ray Rodriguez was raised on 100th Street and returned after the war. He'd served as a bookkeeper in both the Navy and the Coast Guard. And when he heard Norm mention the idea of starting a neighborhood credit union, he offered to help and spread the word.
We went down the block talking to people. We got them all interested, and then
Would you go like door to door to people's apartments?
Well, see, we didn't have to go door to door because everybody used to be out in the street.
Inspired by this, we started our Christian economics group, which met in our little apartment.
We always would pray at the beginning, and then after we finished, we would all pray again. People were very religious at this time because they really had to fall back on the religion. So when things were done in a religious way, they believed.
Norm and Peg invited a representative from the National Credit Union League to come and help educate them. Initially, he was doubtful about their ability, but 9 months into the process, he encouraged them to go ahead and apply for a federal charter. They were turned down, but didn't give up.
We convinced this man that we could run a credit union. We waited 6 months or so. He came back with the charter. He says, "You are now officially a credit union." And so we started the credit union right there in 100th Street.
It was 1956. They had established the very first secular credit union in a low-income neighborhood in New York.
That credit union thing really came to life because we just kept pushing it. And there was a few of us that really kept pushing it.
Having achieved the seemingly impossible, the credit union became a model for Norm's ongoing work in East Harlem. Years later, he would coin a term to describe the part he would play again and again: spiritual coordinator.
I have seen over and over again in our life here in East Harlem that social workers who have their degrees and lots of experience are just so dedicated to helping the people, but not looking for the people who want to help and who have got the dedication and the common sense to be able to do what the professionals just are not able to do.
Ray Rodriguez would dedicate the next 30 years to working as the volunteer treasurer of the East Harlem Protestant Parish Credit Union, putting in nights after he got home from work and weekends.
It just felt good to help people that really needed stuff. And for them to be able to pay back small amounts and everything else and not be subject to getting hurt, it was a good thing